Okay, so if you're not a fan of people ranting, then this is probably not the video for you. But this morning I just reached a point of just being so very frustrated with the Delphi case. Now, I'm one of these people who has followed the case from the very start. Not from like the girls were missing, where are they, but just after they were found. In Australia, that's when the news reached us. Obviously, a case of missing children isn't going to hit Australia. And I watched all the presses, so much media coverage of the case. I followed all the Kegan Kline stuff. And then after Richard Allen was arrested, I started following all that, but then it just turned into a complete utter circus. So for the past 2 years, I've steered clear of watching any content related to Delphi and just kind of kept myself up to date from the background, because just trying to sift through all the crap was just a joke. And the number of people who've now just formed a solid opinion on this case before it's even going to trial, well, before it had even gone to trial, is just insane. And that, to me, has been frustrating. I've reserved making a judgment until I can hear evidence at trial, because we all know, or we should know, but it seems that some people don't, that defence teams and prosecutors will use the media, and in this case social media, to push a narrative out to the public, to try and have the trial basically tried in the court of public opinion. And that's definitely been happening here with the Delphi case. The number of filings that have been put out by the defence team, they've just thrown filing after filing. Do you think they really needed to do that? No. They were just trying to sway public opinion. And boy, did they do a good job of it. There are now people who are so blindly following the defence theory that they refuse to listen to any other facts. Prosecution have played nice this time round. So there's been very little coming out to counter what has been put out by the defence. Now let's have a look at this week and what's going on with the trial. Now, I have said for the last 2 years, I will start paying attention when the trial starts. That's when I will pay attention. I will find out what's going on, and I will make up my mind then as to whether or not I believe Richard Allen is guilty or not guilty. Now, here's the thing. Judge Gull, and, well, let me get started there. I have sat there and looked at all the comments people have made over the last 2 years about Judge Gull being a despot and all the negativity that's been aimed towards her. And I thought, well, is this part of the defence strategy? Is this being pushed out by the defence? Them trying to make her look bad as a judge, discredit her as a judge, to help them with an appeal process should Allen be convicted. But to be honest, what I've seen in the last couple of days, I get it. The woman is basically blocking not just the rest of America, but the rest of the world from being able to actually see what's going on with this case. Now, I'm not going to criticise her taking cameras from media. I am going to criticise her keeping them. I think it would have been more than enough to remove the SIM cards and return the cameras and ban the media. I think legally, I can't see how it can be right to confiscate those cameras, that expensive equipment, and keep it. But let's talk about the issues with knowing what the heck is going on with the trial. There's only a limited number of media, mainstream media, allowed in. And then there's, I believe, 24 seats for the public, which are being filled mostly by YouTubers. This is upsetting people in the Delphi community who have lived this case for the last 7 years and who want to sit in on the trial, but they can't get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to line up at the courthouse. So they've missed out, and there are some very upset people in Delphi because they're being denied access to the case. As for the people who have got in, here's the thing. So many people have said, we're going to Delphi because we believe in transparency. We want people to know what's happening in the case, so we're going to Delphi and we're going to report on it. But the problem is that probably at least half of those people who have attended so far have gone in with their bias intact. And what's happening is that you scroll through X, you scroll through YouTube, trying to find information, solid information about what has happened during the day, during the trial, and you get so much bias. Scrolling through X, you have to actually go and click on specific people. Like, I keep trying to search for Barbara McDonald, and while she has put a lot of good stuff, she hasn't gone into a great deal of detail, but she puts solid fact. But if you just go straight in and search for Delphi, you get a lot of people just pushing their opinions again. So amongst all that crap, you've got to try and find information from people who have actually been attending the trial. And information from people who have been attending the trial and are not biased and only reporting what suits their bias. And that's the same thing on YouTube. There's so many people reporting on Delphi on YouTube. Some of them haven't been there, and so they've looked at maybe one source, the source that suits their bias, and now they're pushing their bias. I saw one particular YouTuber posting on X, well, if Richard Allen isn't acquitted, then, I don't know, then some sort of dummy spit comment. And I thought, you're only into day 2 of a 4-week trial, and you're already making this judgment. And she has been extremely vocal for the past 2 years over her negativity towards Judge Gull, her belief that Richard Allen is innocent, her blindly following that narrative and not being willing to consider anything else that has been brought forward. And she's one of many. And then in terms of other YouTubers, just for me trying to find information about what's been going on with the trial, I went through a few different YouTubers yesterday where to try and find out what was going on, you would have to listen to a 2-hour, 3-hour live stream just to get a handful of facts. Now, I did find one television station which I think is possibly Wish TV. I have clicked on subscribe, and they did a really good breakdown from day one. But that didn't actually hit YouTube till quite late in the piece. They have an app apparently that if you're in America you can go on the app and then you can watch it there. But for me in Australia that wasn't an option, so I had to wait till it finally hit YouTube. So hopefully they will put something up from day 2. And I'm going to call it day 1 and day 2 as in day 1 when the opening statements were made. Not day 1 looking back to when the jury selection was happening. Because that's the other confusion. Trying to find information and people are calling day 1 looking at the jury selection or day 1 the start of the actual trial. So trying to find actual information about particular days is a nightmare in that respect, because you click on what you think is day 2 and some fool is actually talking about the first day of the trial, which is not day 2 in my opinion. And even if you were including the jury selection, it's still not day 2. So there's so much confusion, so much ineptitude of people who either were at the trial but are just reporting based on their bias, or simply were snoozing during testimonies, or people who have not been at the trial, they've found one source which suits their bias and they're reporting on that. Now there is one exception to this that I've discovered so far, and please help me out, tell me if there are more. And this is thanks to Grizzly, of course, because she is on it. I don't think Grizzly even sleeps. I'm just exhausted from trying to follow Delphi and still follow other cases and stuff. But Grizzly's just on it. Andrea Burkhart. She has a YouTube channel. Unfortunately, she missed the second day. She had another commitment for this half day Saturday. So she wasn't there, which is a shame, because when you go to her YouTube page, she really thoroughly goes through. She clearly made really good notes, and she really thoroughly covers what happens on day 1. So I'm hoping that on Monday she will definitely get back into the courtroom and can therefore give us more information. But it's so frustrating that having followed this case for 7.5 years, now when it's finally going to trial, and having anticipated it going for trial for all this time, just really struggling to find basic information. In terms of day 2, so far I've only been able to find out who the witnesses were. Seems like the memorable thing is the account of the man who found the girls, and him saying that he thought they looked like mannequins at first, and saying that the 5 minutes that he waited for the law enforcement to get there, that he had to turn around and not look at them, and that it seemed like an eternity. That's about the only information that's come out from a full half day of trial. Hopefully people are going through their notes and there'll be more information come out later today. But it seems like people are not putting out the information. I've not been able to find any mainstream media articles just yet talking about day 2 of trial, and that is so frustrating. So what do I think should happen? Well, I think that America's media needs to grow some balls. I'm just going to put it that way. We have a case here in Australia, a a lady back in February of last year went on a run and she was unalived, sorry, I've got to say it that way because of YouTubed, by a 22-year-old male. Now, he came from a fairly prominent family in the area, so originally when he went to court, the judge basically kept everything quiet. They wouldn't even release his name. And Australian journalists weren't going to stand for that. And they basically took legal action straight away. And now that case is fully transparent. So they actually stream from the courtroom and the public can access it and watch it from their own home. And that's because Australian media went, nah, we have a right to transparency. We have a right to see this case. Now, I know that there has been attempts to get Judge Gull to, make it public, and that they've been rebuffed, but I don't understand why the American media aren't taking it higher up the chain. Why is it just being accepted that this despot of a judge can just completely prevent transparency in this trial and say, yep, sorry, I'll allow 12 media in here and 24 other seats, and the rest of you are just going to have to hope that they report on it unbiased and with accuracy. And honestly, it seems like it's going to be a nightmare if the next month is going to be all about scrolling through X, scrolling through YouTube, trying to find a credible source from that day's hearing. It's going to be a nightmare. And we're going to get to the end of the trial and there's going to be just as much confusion, just as many people pushing a biased opinion because they just don't know. And here's the other thing. The people who are reporting, who've been in the courtroom, you're hearing different versions of facts. They're not reporting well. So how are we supposed to know what the heck is actually going on with this trial? Like I said, from what I see, it seems like Andrea Burkhart's on the ball. And obviously you've got the likes of Barbara McDonald who know what they're doing. But, of course, presumably Barbara McDonald will put out reports at some point. But, for those of us who can't attend, we're wanting to find out the information after the day has ended. And it's really hard to find it. So that's my little rant. I think that if this trial is allowed to continue in this vein, that this is just going to be the start of it. And you're going to have judges all across America who suddenly decide that they don't have to have transparency in their courtroom because Judge Gull has set this precedent. I mean, the privacy screens around the courthouse. Okay, I get that in terms of protecting the jury. And that's fair because apparently mainstream media don't know how to respect things like that. And clearly from the people who were trying to get photos or videos of the jury, that they don't care about the privacy of the jurors. But even still, I mean, that privacy screening is more than just screening where the jurors enter. That's a very, very long amount of privacy screening. Judge Gull wants to have all this done in a sealed room. I'm sure if she could, she'd have no media in there whatsoever. And honestly, it is my concern that there are going to be more idiots in the media who do the wrong thing and give her the excuse to turn around and say, right, the trial is closed to the media. We're going to have it behind closed doors. And of course the media is so spineless. Mainstream media have the money to take legal action. If they actually banded together like the Australian media did, they could fight this. And they could have the trial made public. Make it accessible to those of us who can't attend. But clearly, they just don't have the balls. So, I'll stop there because I could rant all day about this. I'm just feeling very, very frustrated. Like I said, I've been emotionally invested in this case for a very, very long time. So to suddenly find that I can barely access the trial, that I can barely get any information about what's going on, frustrating doesn't even begin to describe it. So if you're still here, thanks for listening. If you're new, please subscribe to my channel, hit the like, and leave your comments below. What do you think about the way this trial is being managed?